I want to ask about your career and the past career, but I'm going to start with Alf Laila and then come back to those questions. So now, if we look at Alf Laila's performance in the two prep races, which were the Dali and the Strendal, there were slightly different tactics are deployed in both races. Was that intentional? What were your race tactics there, and how does that impact Bahrain?
So yeah, it wasn't by design that we were a bit further back at Newmarket than planned, but unfortunately he's got this little bit of a habit where he just breaks a bit slow. He did it at York, but he jumped and he was, on the back of the leaders, which actually it suits him because he probably run a little bit too keen if he was in amongst horses. But it certainly wasn't the plan to give them 4 or 5 lengths head start at Newmarket. So fortunately Jim didn't panic. He knows him well, and just let him find his feet, made his ground up gradually, and fortunately we ended up with the same result as what we had at York, but it wasn't by design, put it that way.
Fantastic. And so now, what are your plans? When does he leave for Bahrain? What are your plans?
So just bear with me as I look at my calendar. I think he leaves on the Wednesday. He's going by horse box over on the Eurostar through to Luxembourg. He stays the night, sort of Wednesday night there, and then flies to Bahrain on Thursday the 10th of November. Obviously ready for the race then 8 days later.
Do you have any thoughts about where he could potentially go after Bahrain, or does he return back to the UK?
So I would thought he'll come back to the UK. Obviously, I'm quite conscious that he's been on the go for a while. He's not had huge amount of racing, but he started his season there at Ascot, where he won the handicap. So I feel he probably needs a little bit of a holiday, but depending on what's in Bahrain, the Jebel Hatta on Super Saturday is possibly been mentioned. And again, depending on what happens there, there's obviously the Dubai Turf then, World Cup night, which we'll have to see. He's I think he's 115 rated now, so he probably needs to improve a few pounds, but he's improved a lot this year, so hopefully that is the end of his improvement, and we can find a bit more.
Do you have any other horses that you foresee coming out for either Super Saturday coming out to Dubai or Saudi?
Not that I can see at the moment. Obviously, Huckham got injured in the Coronation Cup. He's actually back with me.
Fantastic.
He is back cantering. He's had sort of 2 to 3 weeks cantering back at Shadwell, and he arrived back to me last Friday. So that's encouraging. I wouldn't have thought we'd be sort of starting him back in Dubai. And Matt, he probably wants a little bit more juice in the ground. So fortunately, we lost Minzal as well. He's been retired to stud. So I'd say it'll only be Alf Laila, I'd have thought.
Right. And what are your is there a thought in terms of the pedigree, Alf Laila's pedigree that sort of makes him ideal for this race?
So obviously, but on pedigree, he's out of a pretty fast mare, Shadwell mare, but there is a little bit more stamina when you get further down. He obviously he won over 6 furlongs first time up as a 2-year-old, but he's obviously pretty versatile ground wise. He's run twice now, mile and 1. It looks as if that extra furlong will suit him with his race style. So I think there's plenty of positives to take that the Bahrain Trophy should suit him well. They should go a nice, honest gallop, which again, a horse like him who has to be held up, he can be a little bit vulnerable to a slow pace. But yeah, we're hopeful that all conditions should suit him in Bahrain.
Fantastic. And now you were out at the sales this year. Were there any new interesting additions to the Shadwell stable?
Well, obviously, they bought a lovely couple of fillies at Book One, which beautiful pedigrees. So whether I'll be fortunate enough to train one of them, I don't know yet. But yeah, it would be an honour to train. There's two beautiful bred fillies there. And then last week at Book Two, I think they bought 7 or 8 again. There was one colt and I think 7 fillies. There's a mixture of pedigrees. There was a Memas, Showcasing, Land Force. So yeah, it's some interesting additions, and all being well, yeah, 1 or 2 of them will hopefully come to us in the next sort of month or so.
Absolutely. Well, I was going to say, you've obviously worked with Sheikh Hamdan for such a long time, and now with Sheikh Ahissa taking on that Shadwell legacy, what changes are you seeing, and how do you see this legacy going forward?
Well, obviously, it was well documented last year that there was massive reduction in numbers, but I think the season that Shadwell have had for Sheikh Ahissa and her family, obviously Eid at the head of that. Obviously, it was unfortunate. It wasn't the sort of result everybody wanted last weekend, but he's still a 6-time Group 1 winner, which is an amazing achievement. And I think obviously our input from our stable this year, a couple of Group 1 winners, a winner in Dubai, and obviously backing up with Alfleilas and Mats in France, that I've sort of been fortunate that Sheikh Ahissa was in obviously Dubai for Super Saturday, was in France the other weekend, and she takes huge enjoyment out of it, and shares the same passion that Sheikh Hamdan did as well, which from our point of view is brilliant. It is wonderful. We all know we're dealing with a slight, a reduced number now, but it was encouraging what we saw at the sales there a couple of weeks ago. I believe there's sort of going to be 50 plus 2-year-olds going into training yearlings this year. So the signs are very encouraging. So from a trainer's point of view, that's brilliant, and that's what we want. And it's our job then to get results for her and her family, that the enjoyment continues for her.
Absolutely. I think last question, and then I promise to go away, is now you won a fantastic number of races around the world. What's the one race that you would consider as your career best so far, and one race that you'd like to win that you'd consider to be a career best? I mean, one that's eluded you.
So yeah, the best. Obviously, it took me till this season to train a Group 1 winner. So the Epsom Coronation was a huge, and actually I didn't realise at the time that Shadwell had never won that race. It had eluded Sheikh Hamdan, so that was very was huge. Obviously, Minzel winning at Haydock was another huge achievement. There was a lot of satisfaction from taking Huckham over in March for Super Saturday. I know it was only a Group 2, but it was the first sort of international runner which had been brought over since Sheikh Hamdan had passed, and obviously Hissa was there. I think Sheikh Saeed was there, Sheikh Hamdan's eldest son. So I took lots of satisfaction from that. That was, I'd have loved to have, had a different result on World Cup night in the Shima Classic. But it just things didn't quite fall right for us that day. But going forward, I think any any sort of classic now would be high on my list. Group ones, everybody would probably tell you they'd love to win a Derby. But also, I'd love to go back out to Dubai on World Cup night and win those big sort of group ones, for Sheikh Hamdan's family. I'm sure most of them would be there. So, that would be a huge sort of honour and an achievement for myself and all my team if we were able to do that one year.
Sure, absolutely. That would be that would be, especially so early in the new generations, so that they're able to enjoy it a lot more.
That's it, and I think that's where we've been very fortunate this year that see Sheikh Hamdan's passing was tragic, but amazingly Baid was just sat in the wings, and he bred him right back from his old sort of high fashion line, and amazing as if he left him for Sheikh Ahissa and the family to this is my gift to you.
Yep.
Make them up for this, because as we well know, they are very, very hard to find sort of Group 1 horses. So when you find one like him who wins 6 Group 1s, it is amazing. So I hope they've got huge satisfaction and huge fun from that, and realise that this is the sport that Sheikh Hamdan had such huge passion for, and it may be they may have thought why did Dad find this racing sort of game? What gripped him, and maybe they've seen a little bit of that this year. We hope so anyway.
True, absolutely. Last question, and then I really will go away, was just out of curiosity, are you seeing more Middle East owners, so Saudi, Bahrain, with all these big iconic races being sort of now established in the region, are you seeing more owners coming out?
It looks that way. That way. That certainly Bahrain is very big now, isn't it? With Fawzi Naz, Sheikh Sultan, and quite a few others. So yes, I think there certainly seems to be more. I'd like a few more in my yard, definitely. But it's obviously with what Bahrain is doing, and Qatar and Saudi, and that there really are setting up races now, which us as sort of trainers all around the world are taking note. If we've got a horse we think suitable, the prize money's wonderful, the tracks are great now as well. So it's a proper world stage now.
True, absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Burrows. I really appreciate your time.
No problem. All right, good to talk to you.
You take care of yourself. Bye-bye.